That is why I am taking immediate presidential action to stop the violence and restore security and safety in America. I am mobilizing all available federal resources, civilian and military, to stop the rioting and looting, to end the destruction and arson, and to protect the rights of law-abiding Americans, including your Second Amendment rights. Therefore, the following measures are going into effect immediately. First, we are ending the riots and lawlessness that has spread throughout our country. We will end it now. Today, I have strongly recommended to every governor to deploy the National Guard in sufficient numbers that we dominate the streets. Mayors and governors must establish an overwhelming law enforcement presence until the violence has been quelled. If a city or state refuses to take the actions that are necessary to defend the life and property of their residents, then I will deploy the United States military and quickly solve the problem for them. I am also taking swift and decisive action to protect our great capital, Washington, D.C.
And I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had two horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon. Revelation chapter 13, verse 11. Shalom. I want to start off by giving all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rachak Kodash, and double honor to our venerable apostles and others of great millstone who rule well, and peace and blessings to the Lord's elect, the house of David. All right, so Brother Aharon coming back at you with another lesson, Lord willing to be edifying and uplifting unto the elect. All right, and before I head into the lesson, I just want to give a quick, info that Brothers is a little bit under the weather due to this allergies and stuff. It's around this time of the year. All right, so just bear with me through this lesson. All right, nonetheless, I came across an article, I think it was yesterday. And as I read through it, the only thing that I thought about was this is definitely going to lead to martial law. All right, this is basically Trump's, I guess, his steps before he officially brings this thing full circle. All right, now we've been talking about martial law for so long. All right, how this country is going to get to a point where the only thing that's going to be reasonable for the type of chaos and turmoil that's going to hit this place will be martial law. Okay, where your constitutional rights have been suspended and you're under military rule, so to speak, right? And there's going to be a lot of, let's just say it's not going to be fun. All right, it's not going to be fun. All right, and Trump is definitely setting things up for that. Okay, for whatever reason. All right, but we know according to biblical prophecy, all right, that we're going to have that civil war, which would be pretty much a very uncivil civil war, like I always say, right? There's going to be a lot of government buildings being burnt down because people are going to be pissed. Okay, with the way things are going now, they're slowly, gradually shifting and changing things quickly. All right, so it's the transition, so to speak. But once people realize that this so-called transition that they were promised, all right, would fix everything, did nothing but actually destroy everything. And people are going to take to the streets. You're going to see a lot of these high-level, big-time corporation buildings, right? These banks, so on and so forth, is all going to be torched, all right, destroyed, vandalized completely, all right, because of the anger of the people. All right, there's a quote, I believe it was Gerald Celente. He said, when people have nothing to lose, they lose it. Okay, when people have nothing to lose, they lose it. And I believe through the spirit that this is what Trump is getting ready for, when the people actually lose it all. Okay, so the article says, and it's titled, Trump orders Hegseth and Bondi to determine how military can be used in domestic law enforcement. Okay, and that should be sending red flags all over the place. All right, it says, President Donald Trump directed Secretary of State, Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, and U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi to determine how the U.S. military could be used for domestic law enforcement on Monday. Today's Wednesday, so that was 2 days ago. Okay, right at the end of April, heading into May. Tomorrow is May 1st. Okay, so we'll see what that brings, what kind of vibration, all right, that month is going to bring. But this is what they're setting up for. Okay, finding ways, all right, that they could use the U.S. military for domestic law enforcement. All right, so again, the military is for war. All right, so when you start having the military traversing the local streets of American soil, what does that tell you? Right, they're built for war. So who are they going to war against? So it makes you wonder things like Rex 84 that we've been talking about. Right, we've talked about the FEMA red list, blue list, yellow list. Okay, we've talked about the sea camps. Okay, we've even brought up things like Jade Helm 15. Right, that whole exercise that they were doing. Okay, and many different exercises over the years that they've been done that we've documented. You know, we've done videos on them. All right, to let you know, hey, these are all part of the plannings. These are all part of the steps. Do not take it for granted. Do not just, turn a blind eye to it. Don't say, when we give warnings, don't turn around and say, oh, that's just a conspiracy. I'm not even going to pay attention to it. These are, again, Esau is setting the stage. We're the watchmen, so we're watching everything. Okay? While they're bringing in this digital phase, all right, they have to destroy the old. But you see how they're doing it. Famine, pestilences, and so on and so forth. Okay? But to keep that order in the time of chaos, they have to use the military. And they will use the military. Okay? It says, in an executive order titled, quote, strengthening and unleashing, listen to the words, listen to the verbiage, strengthening and unleashing America's law enforcement to pursue criminals and protect innocent civilians. That's very vague. Okay, because when you say criminals, what crimes are we going to be going against? What kind of crime are we talking about? You're just criminals, right? So if in the very near future, if Trump decides that anyone who speaks against his regime will be deemed a criminal, does that mean that you will be, or he will be using the military against any and every American individual here? Because most people are against this Trump shit. All right, for the most part. Okay, because what? Americans are suffering now. They're starting to see that, damn, this guy wasn't really here to bring us no golden age, man. You know, the American golden age, making America great again, all this dumb shit. Right? People are starting to wake up to it. Because the reality is dictating their actions. It's not no more, oh, you guys are just talking. Their people are suffering. And it's only about to get worse. Okay? May is coming. Okay? It's only a day away. A few hours away, really. All right. I'm very curious to find out how next week Monday, once you start having like 10 days into May, 20 days into May, yeah, things are going to get real interesting. Okay. Things are going to get real interesting with these tariffs and stuff. All right. So we'll see. So continuing, it says, let's see. It says in an executive order titled Strengthening and Unleashing America's Law Enforcement to Pursue Criminals and Protect Innocent Civilians, Trump issued several directives, including the establishment of a legal defense mechanism for law enforcement officers and a crackdown on state and local officials who willfully and unlawfully direct the obstruction of criminal law, including by directly and unlawfully prohibiting law enforcement officers from carrying out duties. So if you're a governor or a mayor or anyone who tries to say, oh, well, why is the military here? Or you try to pull the Constitution card, they have something for you. Okay, they definitely have something for you. So let's keep going. It says, the president also ordered Hegseth and Bondi to determine how military and national security assets, and personnel can most effectively be utilized to prevent crime. Always remember that. Who is the face of crime in this society? That's a general question. Who is the face of crime in this? And not the face of terrorists. We're talking about the face of crime. So-called blacks and Latinos. Right now, they're building the case because all they keep saying is You have drug cartels here. You got MS-13 members here. All these different things, right? That is the catalyst that they need. Just like in all times that they've done this, where eventually it comes to the American citizens, that's the goal. But they can't just come outright with it. No. So they have to find a boogeyman. Okay? And then from that boogeyman, everyone becomes a boogeyman. Okay? So it says here, section 4, it says using national security assets for law and order. A, within 90 days of the date of this order, the Attorney General and the Secretary of Defense, in consultation with the Secretary of Homeland Security and the heads of agencies as appropriate, shall increase the provision of excess military and national security assets in local jurisdictions to assist state and local law enforcement. Now, what's going on right now that any state needs military to be part of the law enforcement or to help or what they call assist, right? We're from the federal government and we're here to help. Whenever you hear a help or assist, it's either we're here to, it's always one thing, we're here to take over. It's either by consent or by conquest. Which one do you want? Right? And it all goes based on how you react to that. Right? It says B, within 90 days of the date of this order, the Secretary of Defense, in coordination with the Attorney General, shall determine how military and national security assets, training, non-lethal capabilities, and personnel can most effectively be utilized to prevent crime. Nah, bro, they're going to be going to people's homes, all right, grabbing people up. You're going to see it. You're going to see it, man. You're going to see it. Everything people be saying on social media is going to have real-life consequences, okay, because people are starting to feel the heat. And once they start feeling the heat and it becomes more and more and more, they're going to start taking to the streets. All right. Second Ezra says what? They shall not regard their kings nor princes. Right. And the power. Hold on. Let's get that. Let's get it. Let's see. Second Ezra. Where you at? There you go. Chapter 15 and start from verse 14, right? It says, woe to the world and them that dwell therein, for the sword and their destruction draweth nigh, and one people shall stand up and fight against another, and swords in their hands. For there shall be sedition among men, and invading one another. They shall not regard their kings nor princes, and the course of their actions shall stand in their power. So people are going to do things based on how they feel or see fit. It's all about survival. All right. You know what I'm saying? If you have the manpower, the capabilities in order to survive, that's what they're going to do. If that includes up to and including taking people's lives, right? They're going to be doing that. It's going to be like hey, Americans are sick, man. You know, Babylonians are sick. You know, they're sick people. So if you're in a mental psychiatric ward, like I always say, right, and all hell breaks loose, you know what I'm saying? The security measures that previously would prevent these people from acting up, if they're taken away, what do you think they're gonna do? You know, they're gonna be grabbing needles, stabbing each other, right? Somebody might crack a window, grab the glass out the window and start slicing people, looking crazy. You know, you might have in the corner somewhere somebody grabbing or somebody trying to bite their ear off, right? And you turn to the right, you look over to that other corner, somebody's getting stomped out. You know, you look over here and it's like, yo, all hell is breaking. Everyone is doing something to somebody violently. You know, because their meds are no more there. The guards are not there to police them, to make sure that they're not wilding out, rioting. You know. So these people have been left to themselves in a psychiatric ward, and they all have psychiatric problems. They're taking out on each other. That's how America is going to be. Okay. It says, verse 17, a man shall desire to go into a city and shall not be able. So you already have these conditions in play, right? You have quarantines, you have curfews, okay? You have stay in place, shelter in place orders mandated, right? which are going to be policed by the government, by the military, by these robot dogs, all these different things. You know, you're going to wish to go see a friend or go to the grocery store or just step out for some fresh air. And the moment you step out, whoop, a drone passed right over your head like, hey, what's going on? You know? So, yeah, things about to get real crazy soon. All right, and this is all deployed and the setup to come against the American people. Right? Remember what Trump said to the El Salvadorian president? Right? That the homegrowns are next. Okay? So there you go. All right? There you go. It says, verse 18, 2 Ezra 15 and 18 says, for because of their pride, the city shall be troubled, the houses shall be destroyed, and men shall be afraid. Right? A man shall have no pity upon his neighbor, but shall destroy their houses with the sword and spoil their goods because of the lack of bread and for great tribulation. Okay, remember that word or that phrase, great tribulation. Okay, great tribulation. All right. So finishing off in the article, it says President Trump signed the executive order in the presence of sheriffs and law enforcement officers from around the country. Okay, so they're all down with the play. All right, and this is all, again, it's all going to affect the American people, but really you Jakes. All right, because that's the plan. It's been like that for a minute. All right, they know about the prophecy of Jake waking up, so they're trying to do something against it. They're trying to do something about it. All right, because the Israelites, we're the number one. We be living in these elites. We live in their heads rent free, man. You know, everything they do, all their resources, is to come against us. All right, not just the people who don't know that they're Israelites, but especially those who know. Okay, and that's why ultimately the Lord is going to give them the ability to come in like a flood, you know, and cause harm and wreak havoc. Okay, be merciless. All right, by the hand of DJ Trump. Okay, let's get this real quick. There's the book of Daniel, chapter 12, verse 1. It says, and at that time shall Michael stand up, the great prince which standeth for the children of thy people, and there shall be a time of trouble, such as never was since there was a nation, even to that same time. And at that time thy people shall be delivered, everyone that shall be found written in the book. Okay, the book of what? The book of life. The Lamb's book of life. Okay, you want to be written in that book, because it's like going to a party or a get together somewhere, right? And everybody wants to go. Like, it's like only high level elites can be in there. You know, it's like, damn, if you end up in that kind of place, you're recognized, right? But they have a guest list, and only those who are on the guest list can go. You know, you have people who are working and so on and so forth, but guess what? Only those who are on that guest list can go to that ball or that party or whatever the case may be. And when you get there and your name is not on the list, you cannot attend. All right, you can't even be in the vicinity. They're going to escort you out. All right, they're going to escort you out. So it's the same thing when the Lord comes back. Those who are not written in his list or his book, okay, they're going to get crossed out. And that's everyone who's not of the elect. All right, only the elect have their names written, all right, in the Lamb's book of life. Okay, so that time, all right, the times that we're entering into, the time of Jacob's trouble, all right, a time like never before. Okay, that's what we're entering. That's what we're preparing to go into. Okay, martial law, all these different plannings and so on and so forth, using the military against the people. It's not going to be a good time. It's not going to be a good time. Okay, and we have the perfect person to do it. All right, so let's get this in the book of Isaiah, and then I have a few other things I want to read as well to tie it all in. All right, this is the book of Isaiah, chapter 19 and verse 1. It says, the burden of Egypt, behold, the Lord Yahweh rideth upon a swift cloud, and shall come into Egypt, and the idols of Egypt shall be moved at his presence, and the heart of Egypt shall melt in the midst of it. All right, and you're seeing this now to a degree, right? Because the Spirit of the Lord is heavy on the men of the Lord, that we're literally breaking down strongholds. You got the whole entire world. Everybody's talking about the Hebrew Israelites. For the most part, it's quite negative because, of course, we're in a wicked world. When you bring out the truth, they're going to demonize you, demonize it, right? But it's understandable because that's the same thing that the disciples went through. Yahushua went through that. The disciples went through that, right? What did Yahushua say? He said, hey, they're going to persecute you because they persecuted me. Okay, they're going to hate you because they hated me first. Right? So all these people, you got the old, the young, the men, the women, everyone, they all have something to say. All right? But that's okay, because that means that we're actually doing the right thing. Okay? Verse 2, it says, and I will set the Egyptians against the Egyptians, and they shall fight everyone against his brother, and everyone against his neighbor, city against city, and kingdom against kingdom. Right? So that's what? Civil war. Okay? Race riots and so on and so forth. We read that in 2nd Esdras, right? One people against each other. Let's get that again. All right, let's get that again. All right, the book of 2nd Esdras, chapter 15 and 15, it says, for the sword and their destruction draweth nigh, and one people shall stand up and fight against another, and swords in their hands. Right, so the same thing being reiterated in the book of Isaiah, the 19th chapter. All right, the Lord says what? And I will set the Egyptians against the Egyptians, and they shall fight everyone against his neighbor, against his brother, and everyone against his neighbor, city against city, and kingdom against kingdom. And the spirit of Egypt shall fall in the midst thereof, right? Because when you have all that chaos happening, it's going to have an effect, devastating effect on the economy. The whole entire system is going to come crashing down. Okay, it's going to get worse than what you're seeing now. All right, it's bad enough that you have an economy that's collapsed, but what makes it even better, or in this case worse for them, will be when they end up destroying their own entire living communities. Okay? We talking about like chaotic. Like I said, the people are going to lose it. Okay? And they're going to wild out on each other. All right? When they don't have their meds, they don't have their food. Oh my goodness. They don't have their electricity. You know, they can't just hop on Instagram and Twitter and YouTube and all these different things because the whole system is down. All these power outages and all that. When the Lord turns this place black, yeah, it's gonna get real crazy. Okay, it's gonna get real crazy. It says what? It says verse 3, Isaiah 19 and 3. It says, and I will destroy the counsel thereof, and they shall seek to the idols and to the charmers, and to them that have familiar spirits, and to the wizards. Right? And they're doing that now with AI and all that. Is that not what Elon Musk said? Well, with AI, we're summoning up the demon. That's so crazy. It says, and the Egyptians will I give over into the hand of a cruel Lord, and a fierce king shall rule over them, saith the Lord Yahweh of hosts. Right? So that cruel Lord, when you go into that word cruel, let's pick apart that word real fast, see what we can get from that. All right, let's see. The word cruel and fierce, we're going to look at both, right? Cruel we have here is, it looks like the word kwasha, if I'm not mistaken. Kwasha, all right? And it says here, severe, fierce, okay, intense, okay, vehement, all right? And the root word, you go into it a little bit, it says what? To be hard pressed, all right, to make difficult, to make burdensome, to make severe, okay, harsh, all right? So remember we read before we do that, let's look into this one. This word here, we looked at the word cruel. Okay, now let's look up the word fierce. Okay, it says strong, mighty, fierce. Okay. Yep, to make firm, to be fierce. All right, so now let's look up in the online etymology dictionary. Let's look up the word cruel. Let's see what we got here. All right, it says what? Stern. Okay, of suffering, death, etc., attended by much distress. Okay. So it says rude, unfeeling, hard-hearted, rough, raw, bloody. All right. So those are all words that describe Trump. Okay, they're adjectives that describe Trump. That's just the spirit that he has. Okay, so yeah, that's why we believe that he's that cruel Lord, because through him we're going to see a time like never before. Okay, and when you start talking that talk, the way he's talking, all right, yeah, he's going to go in. The Lord is going to give him that spirit to do what he's going to do. Okay, so now we want to go back to Revelation 13 and highlight, all right, a word in the 11th verse. Like it says, and I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had two horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon, right? So that dragon, let's go to that word dragon here real quick. See if we could pick that out as well. All right, it says here, Dracon. All right, it says a great serpent, a name of Satan. All right, Dracon. That's where you get the concept of draconian. All right, draconian. So let's look up the word draconian. Okay, let's see. Draconian, right? It says, of or pertaining to Draco, the ancient Greek statesman, okay, in reference to laws, rigorous, extremely severe, or harsh. So cruel Lord, when you go into that word cruel, some of the synonyms or words that describe that word, okay, or synonymous with that word, okay, is what? Harsh, severe, okay? That's the same word or same meaning for the word draconian, to be harsh or to be severe, okay? It says earlier draconic, which is implied from 1640s. Draco is the Latinized form of Greek drakon, which is exactly what you see when we read in the book of Revelation 13:11, right? Name of the archon of Athens, who laid down a code of laws for Athens back in 621 BC that mandated death as punishment for minor crimes. Okay? So it's the same thing. That's the same mindset or spirit that Trump is coming in with. To have the military take over domestic law enforcement, like that's extreme, bro. That is extreme. Because again, the military is the teeth of the beast. All right, going to Pentagon. That's where they use to rule. All right, the nations on the earth. They use their military. Okay, with an iron fist. So if Trump is speaking in this kind of terms, which is completely unconstitutional, but they're going to find a way around it. Executive orders and different acts and executive orders from the past that has been set in place for now. Okay, and speaking of that, let's get into a little bit of those. All right, let's do some reading here. It says, the next shameful event in our history, which still plagues us to this day, was the War Powers Act of 1933. This act permitted President Roosevelt to make law in the form of executive order, bypass Congress, and create his own socialist state. The citizens, right, of America, or of this country, were ever after to be considered enemies of the United States, who must be licensed to engage in any commercial activity. With the aid of the Federal Reserve, those same ones who created the Great Depression and are creating the ones now, the president confiscated the gold and silver coin and replaced it with the worthless pieces of paper and a debt system that will eventually destroy this great country. The land and the border, or the land and the labor were pledged to the Federal Reserve Bank Incorporation as collateral for a debt system that could never be paid. How can this most important event in our history not be taught in school? Because they don't want you to know. Okay? It says everyone knows about the imprisonment of Japanese Americans during the Second World War. All people of Japanese descent, even natural-born Americans, were subject to detention in prison camps. Could we see this happening again very soon? Right? With the name of, we're trying to catch all the so-called illegal gang member immigrants. And that turns into something completely different, which it will, because it's designed to do so. Rex 84. Okay, the King Alfred Plan. All right. It says the federal government jailed 120,000 men, women, and children for 3 years for the crime of being Japanese. That's it. The Supreme Court upheld the capture, internment, and effective seizure of their property. That fact alone confirms my theory that they all have IQs of 50 or lower. The Smith Act, also passed during this period in 1940, before America's entry into World War II, mandated, now check this out, this is what it did, the Smith Act, okay? It mandated the fingerprinting and registration of all aliens in the United States. To be unregistered alien was against the law. You see how easy they could bring this whole CHIP into play? If you're not registered, it goes against the law. They're not going to say if you're not microchipped. No, if you're not registered, if you don't have a digital ID. Let's keep going. It says, this law also outlawed all organizations that advocated the overthrow of the government. Perhaps a reasonable measure in war, but this law was passed during peacetime. The Smith Act was abused to jail labor leaders, socialists and communists who were opposed to the ways of the robber baron capitalists, the very ones who created the conditions for the Great Depression. The next one was the Red Scare for the 30s and the communist witch hunt of the 40s and 50s, which ruined many American lives. Their only crime was to know the wrong people, end quote, quote unquote, wrong people, right? Or to hold liberal opinions, or to have such opinions in their youth, and the gall to stand up to to demagogues and others who used anti-communism as the key to increasing their own power. So now you just shift the so-called Red Scare, change whoever the main topic was, right? In this case, if you're into communism, or if you support communism or whatever, and just put Hebrew Israelites in there, because that's what they're gonna do. They're gonna demonize us to the point where people who know about us or hear about us or have any type of knowledge of us will be demonized. So people are gonna, I'm not part of that. I don't know nothing about that. Okay, apostasy. All right, now you're gonna see that a lot. Okay, you're gonna see a lot of apostates. They're gonna denounce this thing. All right, it says continuing. Hey, that's why even Yahushua said that you gonna have a brother to betray his brother and sister and so on and so forth, right? It's gonna be because of the truth. Okay, and that's how crazy it's gonna get soon. All right, it says what in the 1950 Internal Security Act. All right, the 1950 Internal Security Act, passed by a supermajority to override Truman's veto, required registration of people and groups who were communist or who had beliefs similar to communists. See, so just replace communists with whatever, and that's just how they move. You see, so these things are already built in the fabric of America's system. When the time comes, the people are pretty much conditioned to accept it anyway. So it's going to move quick. All right, it's not going to be a long, drawn-out process. Things are going to happen quickly. All right, that's why people are going to be so caught off guard. It's going to happen suddenly and quickly and overwhelming. All right, and if you don't got no backup plan, which we do, all right, our backup plan is Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai. That's it. All right, if you don't have any backup plan, you're just done. It's not going. You're gonna be out of here. All right, so continuing it says, it created detention centers around the country, which would be filled with FBI identified submersives if the president declared an emergency. Those detention centers are still in existence, and new ones have been built all over the country to hold American citizens who dissent. There are over 43 of them at present under the direct control of FEMA. More recently, many are familiar with the history of the civil rights and anti-Vietnam War movement. Did you also know that the FBI's Operation COINTELPRO, otherwise known as Co-Intelligence Program, approved at the highest levels of government, had as its object the suppression of those who worked to change the system? Why do you think they got the Hebrew Israelites on the ADL list and the Southern Poverty Law Center and all these different things that they keep coming up with? And very soon they're going to be coming in with the demonization, because look at this group ISUPK. All right, they put up a video that's very militant, very dark militant video, which makes no sense really. If you really think about it, it's like, are we here to teach the Bible, or are we here to just come up with all these antics, right? And it's almost like Esau said, "Hey, we're going to start our demonization campaign soon. Give us some stuff so we can use. Go out there, wear all black, start going to gun ranges and doing all this military shit, right? So we can use it as an image of demonization, because we've been calling you guys Black Hebrew Israelites all this time, and you guys are a militant group and they're crazy and radicals. So if we show the public these kinds of videos and we pair it with Captain Tazariak saying, yeah, we're going to have them as slaves. You sensationalize it, right? Because it's the truth, but they'll spin it, you know? And they have clowns like these that will aid in their spinning, right? You're going to have a nice little recipe right there, you know? Which they can just carry it along. Oh, I'm not part of no Black Hebrews, like, because the imaging that they're going to use, they're going to make it seem like it's the craziest thing on earth. Meanwhile, they just came up with that with the help of these clowns over there wearing all black and shit. All right, that black. You forgot what happened to Clown Master J? All right, Grandmaster J, whatever, bald ass dude, popped up out of nowhere, talking about, if you take us down at 6 o'clock, we're going to take you down at 6:05. Nigga, shut up. Where you at now? Huh? So it's all a game, bro. They set this stuff up from within, all right, and then they use it to demonize the whole entire group. All right, and a lot of these camps, even the apostles always say it, you got agents in your groups, in your camps. Some camps, they just filled with agents. It's like crazy. You have got just one agent. They got agents. They come in a group, bunches. You know? Sick stuff. Anyway, so continuing, it says it was used to intimidate the membership, discredit leadership, and even put into jail those who fought for freedom and peace in a manner that was not only grossly immoral, but also completely illegal. That was only 30 years ago. Okay, that was only 30 years ago. So you look at 30 years ago, and you look at now. All right, the kind of things that they've been doing to build up for what we're about to see soon. Because back then they just couldn't put the military in the streets like that. Okay, but now they can. And with this article we just read, Trump is saying that what? Let's get that again. It says Trump orders Hegseth and Bondi to determine how the military can be used in domestic law enforcement. So you're going to have military in the streets. That is martial law. Okay, that is martial law. So they're discussing it. That means that they know something is coming and they're preparing for it. Okay, and remember, the Constitution has been set aside. It was set aside during the Civil War and hasn't been in effect since. That's the Constitution for you. Okay, so just keep that in mind. That during the time of an emergency, a state or a federal emergency, a national emergency, FEMA executive orders kick in. And we know what that means. Them concentration camps going to be filled. It's going to be packed. All right. But yeah, this is what's coming, man. A time like never before. This is what's coming. Okay, let's get this last precept here, and then we're going to close it out. All right, all the signs are there. All right, it's only a matter of time. Okay, it's only a matter of time. And it's going to happen suddenly. All right, it's the book of Matthew chapter 24 and verse 21. It says, "For then shall be great tribulation, such as was not since the beginning of the world to this time, nor ever shall be. And except those days should be shortened, there shall no flesh be saved, but for the elect's sake, those days shall be shortened." Okay, and why would the Lord shorten those days? Is because the hell that's going to befall this place. Okay, in the book of 2nd Ezra 16 and verse 68, it says, "For behold, the burning wrath of a great multitude is kindled over you, and they shall take away certain of you and feed you, being idle with things offered unto idols." All right, and you got famines now. All right, these storehouses are going to be found empty very soon. Okay, we're talking weeks from now. I'm telling you, we're talking weeks from now, man. It's that serious. But see, the more serious it is, the less you hear about it. Right? And that's all done by design. So, hey, take heed, man. Take heed and prepare as much as you can right now. All right? It says, and they, go back to 2 Ezra 16 and 69, and they that consent unto them shall be had in derision and in reproach and trodden under foot. For there shall be in every place and in the next cities a great insurrection upon those that fear the Lord. They shall be like madmen, sparing none, but still spoiling and destroying those that fear the Lord. Okay, so that's the highlight. All right, be like madmen, sparing none. All right, they're just doing their job, as they say. All right, by following the orders of a madman, Trump. Okay, it says, for they shall waste and take away their goods and cast them out of their houses. All right, female executive orders go into all of that. Okay, so they have this on record. It's not just written in the scriptures, but they also have it documented, ready to go. Okay, they run drills and all these different things. How they'll be able to come in and seize your guns, your weapons, your food, all that. Your women, all right? Seize you, the individuals, okay? All in the name of, quote, national security. All right? So continuing, verse 73 says, then shall they be known who are my chosen, and they shall be tried as gold in the fire. Okay, so the Lord is going to show out who his men are. When all hell is breaking loose, hey, those men are going to be good. All right, and those who are around those men, they're going to be good. But everybody else, here comes the pain. All right. So anyway, I'm going to leave it off there. Lord willing, you're edified and informed. In closing, I'd like to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Racha Kodash, Thawadi Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai. And until next time, Shalom.